appreciate it. Luke chapter 14, verse 25. Luke chapter 14, verse 25. And this is a unique part of Scripture. It's a part of Scripture that you've probably heard before. This is Jesus talking to his disciples, and he begins to talk about the cost of discipleship. He begins to talk about the cost of following after him and going after him with everything you got. And it's a unique thing that he's saying right now, and I want to point this out to you. And it might throw you off, but you'll be okay. Luke chapter 14, verse 25. I'm going to read it in the King James Version. It says, And there went great multitudes with him, and turned him, and said unto him, and he turned, and said unto them, If any man come to me, and hate not his father, and mother, and wife, and children, and brethren, and sisters, yes, even his own life, also he cannot be my disciple. If he don't hate his father, hate his mother, hate his wife, hate his children, hate his brothers, hate his sisters, and hate even himself, he can't be my disciple. Verse 27, and whosoever does not bear his cross, does not take up his cross and come after me, he cannot be my disciple. For which of you, when you're intending to build a tower, does not sit down first, I know I'm paraphrasing, it's the NJV, Norris Johnson version, does not sit down first and count the cost. And count the cost whether or not he has what is sufficient to finish it. Verse 29, lest happily, after he have laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it will begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Verse 31, or what king going to war against another king does not sit down first? Type in the comments, sit down first. Sit down first and consult whether or not with the 10,000 he has, whether or not he's able to go and fight against 20,000. He said, or else, while the other army is still a great way off, he'll send an ambassador and try to make peace before they even start the fight. So likewise, verse 33, so likewise, whosoever he be of you, that forsakes not everything you have, you cannot be my disciple. Verse 34, salt is good, but if salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land, and it's not even fit for the dunghill, the doo-doo, the dookie. It's not fit for that either. All that it's fit for is to be cast out by men and stomped on. And Jesus says, he that has ears, let him hear. I think in this time and in this season, we as a body have to really establish what a Christian really is. What it means to be Christian, what it means to be Christ-like, what it means to actually follow after God. Because I feel like now we have made Christian such a cool term and such a spiritual term, and we've tacked on and attached to Christian everything that we want to attach onto it. It would almost seem as if we've made God custom made, like we started building Christ all over the world, like we've just made it to be what we want it to be. And Jesus, he would often do things in the Bible that would seem really crazy and that would seem really off, because he always wanted people to know up front everything that they're getting themselves into. He would never sell you or market to you Christianity. Jesus tells you the catch before he tells you the product. He tells you what's about to happen to you before he tells you to come and follow after him. He gives you everything up front. It's only when you come to certain churches that we tell you everything's going to be all right. When you get with God, he's going to give you a car. When you get with God, he's going to do all these different things. But Jesus would rather give you the hard stuff up top just to see where your heart is at first. And so as he's talking to his disciples, he does something that he does many times before, but he gives them something that they cannot receive if they're just listening with fleshly ears. He gives them something that they cannot receive if they're just listening with carnal ears. If they got into this for the wrong reason, what he's about to say now is about to expose them. He tells them at this moment, hey, real quick, as you following me, as you posting me on Instagram, as you changing your status on Facebook to Christian, as you're doing all these things, let me tell you something real quick. If you don't hate your mama and you don't hate your daddy and you don't hate your boyfriend, and you don't hate your little brother, and you don't hate your sister, and you don't hate your children, and you don't hate you, you can't follow me. Now, if I'm carnal and I'm just coming into Christianity like I would come into Buddhism, or like I would come into, the spirituality with the crystals and the sage and all that type of stuff. If I was just coming into this just thinking that it's just something for good people to do with good principles and just to feel good, I would leave off top because I wouldn't understand the true meaning of what he's saying. But Jesus is letting him know, I don't necessarily want you to hate your mother. I don't necessarily want you to hate your brother. I'm actually teaching you to love. That will be a contradiction of what I say, making what I say null and void. What I'm telling you is, I want you to love me so much that it looks like you hate everything else in comparison. This is the type of love that he's calling you into. That if you love Jesus, you're going to have to start to hate certain things. If you love Jesus, you're going to have to start to hate compromise. If you actually say you love Jesus, you're going to have to start to hate the life that you lived before. There has to be something that you are disgusted with as a Christian. I know that we paint Christianity as all love, all love. God is only love. He's nothing else. He's just love. Go hug somebody. Go love somebody. I know that they smoking their lungs out. I know that they sleeping with everything on the block, but just go hug them, hug them, hug them, hug them, and never tell them, hey, you're going to lose something. You're going to have to give up something. Jesus, after loving and healing everybody he did that had an issue or a sin problem, he never just loved them and didn't correct them at the end. He would love them and say, now go sin no more. That means stop doing what you're doing. It was wrong. I covered you. I healed you. Yes, I'm not pronouncing final judgment on you, but there is something you got to stop. Otherwise, you won't experience the fullness of me. And so he tells them, if you don't hate your brother, hate your mother, hate your sister, hate these things in comparison to your love for me, you can't really come after me. Why? Because if anything has a gateway or a foothold or any type of space into your life that could take up my space, that can take up my rule, the enemy will use that and use it to go and make you turn against me. If anything has any space in you, you will turn against me. If your mother has more room in your heart than I do, the devil will use that to turn you against me. God, listen to this principle. You can write it in the chat. You can do whatever you want to do. God is looking for submitted people. The devil is looking for distracted people. And he will use the distracted people to distract the submitted people. I'm going to say that one more time because it just helped 7 people. God is looking for submitted people. Notice I didn't say perfect. Notice I didn't say got everything together. Notice I didn't say didn't stop fully cussing yet. I know that's a play on my post. Notice I didn't say perfect. He's looking for submitted people. If I'm submitted, I'm willing to change and I will change. If I'm not submitted, I will not change. I will not do anything different. I will stay the way I came. Submission makes you change from the way you came. The devil is looking for distracted people. And he'll use anybody that's distracted to distract the submitted people. You think that your mama's evil. She's not evil, she's distracted. You think that your daddy's evil. He's not evil, he's just distracted. You think that your enemies are just coming against you and, even though they're not really your enemies, but you think that your enemies are just coming against you to come against you. They're not evil, they're distracted. And anything that's distracted from God can be used by the enemy because contrary to popular belief, there's not 3 ways in life. There's not God's way, the devil's way, and your way. There's only 2 ways, and your way goes into the other way, if you know what that means. God now is looking for submitted people, and he tells them, if you don't hate everything else in comparison to your love for me, you can't be my disciple. You can't even come after me. He says, if you don't bear your own cross, that means if you don't take up the death that you're going to have to die. The death that you're going to have to die. Now, I'm not talking about literal, even though I believe personally this is a sidetrack that there will come a day when we are persecuted for saying the name Jesus and for proclaiming the stuff that we're going to proclaim, but we don't live in that now. And so the death that he's talking about is not you getting your head chopped off as you go into the store and somebody walks in and says, if you're Christian, stand up, I'm going to kill you, or something crazy like that. We're not going to experience that type of stuff. We're not experiencing that right now. The death you're going to have to die is a death to what you want. It's a death to what you desire. It's a death to what you think it's right. It's a death to what you think you have a right to. Because a lot of us think we have a right to be bitter, or we got a right to do certain things like that. It's a death to what you even think is your right. It's a death to everything in your life. You're going to die giving yourself over to God, and it's going to hurt. It's going to feel like bones are breaking. You're going to be alone at night sometimes. You're going to have to grab your head and fight against things that come against you, because this death process is not cute. He says, take up your cross and follow me. One of the things that God showed me about that is that he's not just telling you to die. He's telling you to go through the same process of death I went through. Jesus didn't just go from the garden to the cross. He went through trials. He was beat, beard plucked out, different things happening to him. He was scourged. Meat was hanging out, intestines out, getting beat on the way to the cross. You have to go through the process until you die, until you go through those things. You're not just going to change overnight. I know you thought that as soon as you got saved, you wouldn't think the way you thought anymore, and like you wouldn't want that anymore, but you got to actually walk with that cross. You got to actually go to sleep at night sometimes and fight the urge to call him. Fight the urge to go get that. All my weed smokers, you know what that is. They call you, say you still need that. That. You got to fight the urge. You got to fight those things. But here's what he says at the end, and this is what is powerful to me, because for so long I was trying to be a Christian, standing on the same pulpit, standing on the same platform, preaching my first message. My first message was a picture of the struggle I was dealing with at the time. And I thought that when I got into Christianity, God put me in something where I would have to fight by myself. It's almost like you get saved, now quit. You get saved, now stop. You get saved, now you're on your own. You get saved, now you got to deal with these things on your own. And you're never shown how you will make it through these things. As a matter of fact, I preached on the deaf and the blind man, on the deaf and the dumb man on Sunday, the man that could not hear and he couldn't talk right. And I preached on how the people brought him to Jesus, and they brought him to Jesus, and they were asking Jesus to lay his hands on him. Jesus took him aside from the crowd and did some other things other than laying his hands on him, because Jesus's way for that man to get delivered was different than the way that they thought he would get delivered, than the way that they thought he would get healed. And a lot of times people bring you to God and they got your process in their mind. Like, okay, soon as I bring her, she's just going to stop stripping. She's just going to stop selling her body. She's just going to stop doing all the stuff that she's doing. He's just going to stop doing all the stuff that he's doing. All he's going to have to do is go to the altar like I did, because I went to the altar that one time, the pastor laid hands on me that one time, then I never want to do those things again. But sometimes your process doesn't look like what other people think your process should look like. And so I didn't know how to change and how to get out of those different things. And what Jesus says next is something so powerful that I think people don't understand and people don't get when they come into Christianity, when you come into believing in Christ. Jesus says, which one of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether or not he has what is sufficient to finish it? He likens your life to a tower, something that you're building from the ground up. Because truth be told, when you get saved, you can be 30 years old, but you're rebuilding your life. You're rebuilding how you think. Everything that you thought was right was wrong the whole time, and now you got to change everything. You're building a tower. You're building something that you did not know you needed to build. You're establishing something you didn't know you needed to be. You didn't know you needed to establish. And he said, which one of you, when you're intending, when you're thinking about, when you're sitting down thinking about building a tower, which one of you first don't sit down and count the cost and think to yourself, do I have enough to even build this tower? He's asking some of us that are in church services and that get excited in a worship service, and the person singing real good got you crying and shouting and snotting in the back, and then you leave the church, you was crying and snotting in the back, you was praying and saying, God, take it away. I want to live for you. I want to do this for you. You made these big decisions, and then you get home and the Bible says you don't sit down and count up the cost. Do you know what you just prayed? Do you know what you just said? Do you know what you just decided to give yourself to? He said, which one of you don't first sit down and count the costs and think to yourself, do I have enough to finish this? Do I actually want to be saved? Like, am I really ready to stop calling him? Am I really ready to actually live right? Am I actually ready to forgive my daddy for doing what he did to me that nobody knows about? Am I really ready to forgive? And am I really ready to let go? Do I have enough to finish this tower? He says, which one of you don't first sit down and count whether or not you have what is sufficient to finish it? And so I titled this message, Is It Enough? I titled it, Is It Enough? Because I wanted to point out in your mind and get you to think, did you think you had what it took when you got saved? Is that why you went back and did the stuff you did now? Is that why when the pandemic came and you weren't able to come into a church no more, your cover was pulled off? Where you were exposed into seeing that your faith was actually just the strength of the faith of those around you and never one of your own? Did you realize you didn't have enough? Here's the secret. None of us have enough. When I first got saved, I thought that I would have the power to actually stop it. I thought that Christianity was actually behavior modification. But behavior modification is not the same thing as sanctification. Sanctification is what God does for you, through you. Behavior modification is what you try to do on your own. When Jesus says you count up the cost to see whether or not you have what is sufficient to finish it, he's alluding to a scripture that comes later in the New Testament where it says, he that hath begun a good work in you is able to perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. That when you got saved, it's now Jesus inside of you helping you to finish what you could not finish, helping you to be strong in places you could not be strong. He is what is inside of you, and he is what's sufficient. But the reason why he tells you to sit down first is because he wants you to get rid of the hype. He wants you to get rid of the excitement. He wants you to actually sit down and think for a second and think, now, how do I live with him inside of me? Not off the emotion, not off what they said, not off the excitement, because if you're living off of that, you will not have enough to build the tower. And he's telling us right here in verse 29, less happily, excitedly, this man starts to build his tower, and he's laid his foundation. He done got his Bible plan. He done bought his books. He done unfriended some people on Facebook. He done now blocked some numbers. She done now did this. Now she laid the foundation, but she realized over 2 weeks of time she been trying to do this on her own, and now she's not able to finish it. And she done made a big old post about how she saved now, about how she changed now, about all the things she letting go. He done made a big old thing about everybody he letting go. He done text all his booze, the one he slept with last night and the one he was planning on sleeping with this weekend. I can't do it no more. I'm saved, I'm free, I'm delivered, I'm doing all these things. He's letting the world know I'm building a tower, but he don't got what is sufficient to finish it because he's trying to finish it on his own. And Jesus says something that's so deep that many of us, it just went over our head. In verse 29, Luke 14, verse 29, he said, and now everybody that's around him begins to mock him. Now everybody that's around her begins to mock her. Verse 30, saying, this man began to build, and he was not able to finish. Christianity is being laughed at now because of the multitudes of people who have started building towers and went back to do their own thing. You started building this tower and still cussing people out. Blatantly. You started building this tower and still is moving and doing things in your own way. You've begun to build this tower and you didn't know it's going to be God that's actually going to help you to be right. It's Jesus that actually helps you to be holy. It's Jesus that actually helps you to be righteous. It's Jesus that actually helps us to do this thing. When I accept him, when I come into him, I have to sit down, get sober, and come into the reality that I'm not in this life alone doing this thing on my own. It's him that's doing this through me. Verse 31, he says this, and this is so powerful, y'all. I never saw it this way, but verse 31, Luke 14, verse 31, he says, or what king going to war against another king, or what king going to war against another king does not first sit down? Does not first sit down. Now think about this for a second, because when you come into the light of Christ, 1 Peter 2 and 9 tells you that you are now kings and priests. You're a king. And then it tells you that the prince of this world has blinded the hearts and the minds of people around. It discusses Satan as a prince. It discusses his spirits as principalities. It discusses him as almost like a king over his domain, as a ruler over his domain. And he's saying, what king now going to war against another king doesn't first sit down? Which means that when you come into this Christian life, you are actually coming into pure warfare. That it's actually real that you're about to go fight. It's real that all hell's about to hit you. You see, it's not that the devil was cool with you when you wasn't saved. I hate people say that. I hate people say, now you a threat, now he da-da-da. The devil ain't never liked you. The devil didn't like you when you were screwing. The devil don't like you when you got a long dress on. The devil don't like none of you. The devil don't like you. But the problem was you were okay with the attack. The attack felt good at the time. Now that you're trying to live right, it becomes a real attack. It becomes a real thing that's attacking you and coming against you. Now you're realizing, oh my God, I'm in a fight. I'm in warfare. I'm fighting against my natural abilities. I'm fighting against who I naturally am. I'm fighting against what I think I am. I have to fight and war against that. You're a king going to war against another king. He says you're going to go fight. And what king does not first sit down and consult with somebody else? Go talk to somebody else. Does not go to an elder. Does not go to somebody else they know. What king does not sit down and first think, I only got 10,000. This thing I'm about to fight is 20,000. Can I actually beat them? When you go to war, you going to war by yourself, fighting against things that you don't have the power to beat, is going to kill you. But when Jesus adds himself to this army of yours, to what he's giving you, when he adds himself, you have enough. But he says, if you don't first consult and you don't first sit down and come into that realization, get rid of the hype, get rid of all the extra stuff, get rid of all the Instagram stuff and all the stuff we make you think Christianity is. If you don't get sober, sit down and really think, I'm going into war, and the only way I'm going to win this war is if Jesus makes my 10,000 enough to beat 20,000. The only way I'm going to win this war is if Jesus comes and helps me to win and fight this battle on behalf of him. The only way I'm going to win is by that. If you don't sit down and do that, the Bible says that in verse 32, while the other king is still a great way off, you're going to send conditions of peace. What does this look like? You got saved on Sunday, but you realize by Monday, everything you're going to have to give up and everybody you're going to have to let go of and what they getting ready to say and talk about you in. You see, 1 Peter tells you that you stopped doing the things of the world so much so to now your friends talk about you. Like Peter literally says that. The Bible covers everything. But you see the warfare that you're going to have to fight, and you quit before it even comes. That's what he says. You desire peace. You make peace while the king is still a far way off. You ain't even got hit yet. You just anticipated the hit and quit. That just hit me. You just anticipated the hit and you quit. But you telling me I'm gonna have to leave him? We got marriage plan. We got all these things. You telling me I'm gonna have to quit this job because it's a tie to my old life? What are you saying to me? You made peace before the fight even came, because you didn't realize what was fighting for you and what was fighting with you. He said, in this same way, if you don't forsake, this is verse 33 of Luke 14, and I'm done. He said, in this same way, if you don't forsake all that you got, you can't be my disciple. Because the only way, listen to what I'm about to say, the only way God can become everything to you is if you get rid of everything. How can he be all to somebody that has all? How can he be all to somebody that still has some? How can he be all? Maybe the problem is not that you haven't accepted God, but that you got God and. That you got God and this. You got God and that. And whenever God is in the space of another thing, he always brings it down. I'm reminded of a story in 1 Samuel, they took the Ark of the Covenant of God, which was God in the box, almost in a sense, and they put him in the same temple as Dagon, which was another god. They woke up in the morning and came to the temple, and Dagon was on this floor. The statue Dagon was on the floor. God knocked the statue down, knocked the false god down that they put him in the room with. Well, they picked the statue back up like most of us do. God snatched him out of your life. You picked up that phone and called him right back. But baby, please. I'ma eat. They picked the statue up and put it right back up. The Bible says they went to sleep. They came back the next day. The statue fell, and the head and the hands of that statue was broken off. God will not share space with anything in your life. He's asking you to let go of it all. And he's asking you to count the cost and realize you got enough if I'm with you and if you've given up everything else. But if you haven't given up everything else, I can't be enough with you and you won't have enough to finish. In 2021, God wants you to finish the tower. God wants you to win the war. God wants you to overcome. But it's only when you actually choose to do the right thing. This is what he desires of you. This is what he wants from you.